Hi, this is Dr. Pam Turner. It is wow, it is the 2nd of April, and this is our getting to know your theorist group. We're going to talk about most of our major theorists today. So Sigmund Freud, of course, he is the father of psychology, the father of talk therapy. As crazy as he was, we would not be here if it weren't for him. Back in the time when he started and he did this. So the women, this is like, before World War II, women could really be thrown into the sane asylum because their husbands wanted a new wife. And women had no power, husband was just kind of tired of you and locked you up. And the clients really were, you were giving lobotomies, you were ice baths, all those things, trying to exercise wherever these symptoms are out of you. Freud came along and said, hey, why don't we just talk to the people? So he really is the father of talk therapy. Under the human development section, that's where you'll find the oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. That's where his psychosexual development is from. So that's in the first chapter when it talks about human development. When we talk about his theories of practice, the goal of a Freudian is to bring the unconscious to the conscious. So what Freud believed is that everything was unconscious. And the problem is we just didn't remember it. That's where those defense mechanisms come in, because they're hidden. The only one that's not hidden is going to be suppression. Okay, so then he believed. Yes, I am sharing my screen. If you don't see it, go out and come back in or give it a minute. Okay. He started his career based on Anna O. Anna O was not his client. That was a friend's client. And Anna O had come in because she had hysteria, right? Paralyzed, convulsions, etc. No physical cause. Again, it wasn't his client, but that's where his theory was based. And what he did is he used her information as a case study. So then what he believed, and the term subconscious is a lay term. That is not a term that we would use in the field. It's unconscious, conscious, and the unconscious, preconscious, and the conscious. He said most everything was in the unconscious, right? And then my preconscious were things that I could pull up if I tried. And then my conscious, that little bitty stuff, right? That's what we're living through every day. And all the problems in this white stuff are because of the stuff that's hidden underneath that we don't remember. So his goal was to bring all of this stuff from underneath up to the top. So the goal of psychoanalytic theory is to bring the unconscious to the conscious. He believed that I had an id, ego, and a super ego. If you listen to many of my older videos, you'll hear pleasure principle. Oh, right. That's your id. Your id says eat, sleep, and procreate. According to Freud, if you do not eat, sleep, and procreate, then society will not continue. And I will remind you again, if you're taking notes, I speak really, really fast. I am trying to brain dump. So it's probably better to go back and listen to the video once I'm done, because you might miss something. So just stay with me, be in the moment, mindfulness. Okay. Again, if you don't see the screen, wait a minute or go back out and come back in. Okay. I just have really fast Wi-Fi. So most often just give it a minute. Okay, so again, it is my devil on one side. It says, Pam, oh my gosh, Pam, eat, sleep, and have sex, right? That's how society goes on, according to Freud. Eat, sleep, have sex. My id wakes up in the morning and says, oh my gosh, we want pizza. We want pizza. We love pizza. We love every kind of pizza. Thin crust, thick crust, breakfast pizza, eggs and bacon on pizza. My id wakes up going, feed me, right? That's honestly, it really does, okay? That's my devil. My angel on the other side says, Pam, don't you dare have a boiled egg and some plain wheat toast, right? My super ego wants me to weigh 110 pounds on a good day. So my ear's like, girl, you need to weigh about 250 and we'd be happy. And my super ego says, no, don't you dare. My ego is me. That is the reality principle. The goal of my ego is to push down both the id and the super ego, to keep them both down so I can make the best decision. That's me. I make the decision, which is my ego. You'll see that in like ego syntonic or ego dystonic, ego strengths, ego defense mechanisms. My ego is me. Okay. So my devil is my pleasure principle. I was born with that. You might see the word innate, INNATE, biological. I was born with that. My superego is my angel. That's my pleasure. I want it. I'm sorry. My superego is never, 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 never. And the ego is me. So what he said then, in order to bring the unconscious to the conscious, he used a couple of assessment pieces. So the thematic apperception test, it is your perception of what you see in the picture. Okay. So what he would do is he would pull up the picture and he would ask you, and usually like 20 of them, he would ask you what you see in the picture, what is happening in this scenario. And based on that, then he would tell you what that really meant. So the thematic apperception is both projective, projecting from your unconscious, and subjective, projecting onto the picture what you believed and what you saw. And Freud told you what that really meant. Okay. Somebody take a guess. Tell me what you want to be brave. What do you see in this picture?
A dying woman and a man sorrowing over her.
Do you think he killed her?
Yeah, he killed her because he found her cheating on him.
Oh. Anybody else? Freud would have a field day with that one. What's going on inside your head?
This is
I
really
thought he was going to work.
Going to work. Okay.
I thought he just hurt her, like violated her.
Do you think she enjoyed it?
No way.
See, I think her nipples are erect, so I think she might have. So I'm just saying, that's, you know.
Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like they had like a good time together, and he's exhausted, and so is she.
He's like, whoa, that was good stuff, maybe. Okay.
I think she hogged the bed and he fell out.
Oh, okay. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong, right? It's just your opinion. And Freud, of course, would say, you poor dumb woman, you're wrong, because he thought he was the expert. Okay, so like Carl Rogers will talk about next. Carl Rogers came along and said, the client is the expert. But Carl Rogers said, I'm the expert. I know everything. Just listen to me. And I am old enough to have started off using psychoanalytic theory. I started practice. I got my master's in 92. I got my license, and I was a definitely trained psychoanalysis. I'm trained in hypnotherapy. I'm certified hypnotherapist. I haven't used it, but because when we went, that's what practice worked. We had like 3 to 5 years to kind of, take care of you. No one ever questioned anything about insurance, and you were great. Somebody's not muted. So now the psychoanalytic is called psychodynamic. So psychodynamic then is the shorter version. So on the test, they're usually interchangeable because the theories are the same. What's different is the time frame. So if it asks you, that you have, 12 sessions and you're looking for unconscious, that's psychodynamic. If it talks about sex, baby, right? Anything Freud was sexual. He was our sexual development guy. So anytime I see that, I know that's going to be a psychoanalytic. So knowing the key terms of who it belongs to. Okay, thank you very much. You're old enough to know the songs. Okay, so then going back to that, so that is again, id, ego, and superego. That is Freud's basic kind of theory. He used the thematic apperception. You might see the CAT also, the children's apperception test. You're also going to see the Rorschach. The Rorschach is the ink blot test. Okay. And again, same sort of thing. He would ask you, what you see in the picture, and then you would tell him what you see, and he would tell you how wrong you were. Okay. If you've seen any of my other videos, my older videos, you know that I always see vaginas. Okay. So if you cut my pelvis in half, right above my belly button, and that could be like, the open areas or the uterus and all that good stuff lies. And that would be like my outer labia and the thighs. I'm just saying, that's what I see. Freud would have a field day with me. So no, but again, no matter what you see, there's no wrong answer. That's why it's called subjective. It's what Freud would say to you. So projective from your unconscious and then onto the picture. The other one you're going to see is the, sometimes it's called the rotters, or you might see this incomplete sentence test in general. So the rotters is you're really just going to answer the questions. I see blank. I like blank. So it's called a Rotter's incomplete sentence test. If you ever see incomplete sentence, again, that is always going to belong to one of my Freudians, where I bring stuff from the unconscious to the conscious. Sports, blank. My nerves are shot. That's my answer. Other people, whatever, again, but there's no right or wrong answer. Just remember that, because it's subjective, which is just an opinion. Objective are facts, right? That are just facts. Alexa, what's the current temperature?
Right now, it's 64 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, so it's 64 degrees where I live. That's a fact. That's objective. Is that warm or cold? Anybody, just put it in my chat box. Do you think that's warm or cold or a good temperature? What do you think? It's cold to me. Okay, but so again, that is subjective then.
Can you say that again?
Thank you, Alexa. Hang up. In call.
There is no active call.
Bye, Alexa. Okay.
Talk to you later.
So that's just your opinion. You're not wrong, right? But I'm not wrong either. So subjective is just your opinion. Objective are facts. The fact is what the temperature is. The fact is what the time is. Those are facts. However, when it comes to Freud, those are subjective. I'm not objective, just his opinion. And again, he was the first one that came along. Truth be told, the defense mechanisms really were written by Anna Freud, his daughter. And you'll get into this, I'll get into this a different video, but so Erikson's first 3 stages line up with Freud's first 3 stages, because Erikson was a friend of Anna Freud's. What do you know? Small world, right? So that's why those line up. Transference, of course, is the client's stuff on me, and countertransference is my stuff. Whenever my feelings get in the way, then I need to seek supervision. My feelings, my values, what I believe has no place in the therapeutic setting, none whatsoever. If the question says something like, Pam is disgusted by gay people, then that's a big deal. That's not just Pam doesn't like it. So that is then maybe I might need to seek supervision and refer the client out, because that's not good for the client. And everything we do on the test, everything in the real world is for the client. Why is there a code of ethics? Why did you breathe this morning? Why did you wear that shirt? Because of the client. So you're always looking for that type of answer. So then countertransference, if my feelings get in the way, then I seek supervision. And then if it says significantly, markedly, something very obviously that's going to be detrimental to the client, then that's when I'm definitely going to seek supervision in hope of referring out. Transference is the client's stuff onto me. Transference is neither good or bad. It just is. It just is. Freud called it the extra helper in the room. He in the beginning, in the beginning he didn't like it, but later on he liked it. He wanted the clients, the women especially, to put their feelings onto him because he was the expert. We all have transference. We all do. If you've ever been in any other relationship, right? You know what? I'm going through your phone because my last boyfriend cheated on me. Where you going? Because my last girl, I didn't know where she was. That's just the same thing. You're transferring feelings from a past relationship onto this relationship. Neither good or bad. It can be negative. It can be a negative. It takes away from the relationship, or it can be a positive transference. But either one of those are not healthy. We have to be aware of it, okay, and make sure that it doesn't get in the way. In groups, you can have multiple transferences because there are other people that can look like, you remind me of my mom, my cousin, my dad, my first husband, my second husband, my third husband, all of those things, right? Those can be part of it. So then my Neo-Freudians, I do not teach them separately. I just teach them as a group. If you have time to come back and pick them up, feel free to do so. Neo-Freudians are anybody that believed in the unconscious, but did not believe in the id and the superego fighting. And they also did not believe in any of the sex stuff, right? So Freud said we should develop our sexuality developed by the age of 5. So my Neo-Freudians didn't believe that. Horney, Fromm, Henry Stack Sullivan, Otto Rank, you'll see tons of those. I do not teach those separately. Most often on the test, what they'll ask you is which one of these is a Neo-Freudian or which one doesn't belong. Neo just means I kind of like Freud, but I didn't believe in the whole stuff. Okay, I didn't believe in the superego. I don't believe in the sex piece, but I do believe a part of it is unconscious. Okay. Object relations theory is Margaret Mailer. So you might see her in this section or in the human development section. What Margaret Mailer said is if we don't develop that relationship with that one somebody, it's an unconscious relationship. If we don't develop that, then for the rest of our lives, we will struggle. Yes, that is correct. Okay. So then Margaret Mailer's theory, she does have a couples theory that I haven't seen on this test. That one either. But she was a Neo-Freudian. What that means is, again, she was part unconscious. I mean, she believed that part of it was unconscious, but she was not. Okay. Chat box. Man.
Hello, this is Bob Cook here from the Internet YouTube channel, TA Therapy. I'm going to give a presentation on Margaret Mahler. Margaret Mahler is that picture in front of you, and she is a...
Okay, so what Margaret Mailer believed is that there were stages we went through. The first stage is called autism. And remember, her theory was out before autism was developed. It wasn't like she was trying to be mean. Autism was her theory. So she believed that babies, when they're first born, just lie there for a few months, a few weeks, and they have no idea what they're doing. So in the second month of life, 2 to 5, that's a symbiotic stage. Symbiosis means that I realize I need that thing to live. Right? So, you know, like the moss that grows up the tree, the moss and the tree don't have a conversation like, hey, I need you. Like the fleas on the dog, right? The fleas, they don't say, hey, dog, can I ride on you for a bit? The fleas just need the dog to live. So that's where babies were between 2 and 5 months. They just know that woman over there, that thing over there, they keep me alive. She said between 5 months to 7 months. That's the original separation stage. That is the first time that I know that I'm a separate object from my mother. I'm feeding and I'm looking around the room like, oh my gosh, what? There are other people around. Prior to that, I don't get that we're separate people. So now from after that first year, and again, the hatching, the reproaching, I don't usually teach because we're not going to see those. You will see rapprochement. Rapprochement is approximately 18 months. That is when I'm leaving mom, right? But I'm not going to leave her totally. I'm going to look back around and see if she's around me. Walking further away, mom, right? Making sure she's there. And then between 2 and 3, I should have developed an unconscious, a safe base, a safe haven that I know that someone's always got my back. So this was written during again, Austria and Vienna times, and babies that were put in orphanages or lived in different homes. What she found out is if they never bonded with anybody, then they would end up having like reactive attachment disorder, narcissist, conduct disorder, all of those things because they never really bonded with that one person. So that sounds great, right, for our kids that we saw in orphanages, but often I bring it to today. So you know what? The 16-year-old has a baby and she wants to finish high school. So the baby gets, sent to his mother for a few weeks, and then it goes to my mother for a few weeks, and the granny and the cousin, and everybody takes care of the baby. But what happens in those first 2 or 3 years of life, the baby has not had that one object, that one thing to connect with. So then we see teenagers who are then conduct disorders or, growing into my antisocials because they never had that one bond. And it's an internal thing, right? It's no matter how far I go in the world, that somebody's always going to have my back. So that's object relations or object constancy. Do remember that's different than object permanence. Object permanence is what happens with Piaget, right? When the ball is there. That's what that means. Okay. Again, intrapsychically, because she was a Freudian, the connection was inside. You wouldn't necessarily see it. Those are her stages. So with that separation, you might see separation, individuation, differentiation. Any of those terms mean the exact same thing. Carl Rogers, of course, you're going to see him. Carl Rogers, if you're not old enough to remember, the best way to recall Carl Rogers is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Okay. In Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, everything was just, did I put that in the chat box? Oh my God. Again, everything I put in the chat box is there for 30 days. If you go to download it now, you'll be kicked out of the thing. So I suggest you just wait to the end. Okay. Okay. So Mr. Rogers, and I do think there has to be some sort of relationship. No one ever asked me, and I haven't done research. But in general, there was a TV show that was on for kids, and it was on in the early 60s. Where's Wikipedia? Because Wikipedia is always the best source, right? Okay, so it was on in 1962. About the same time, Carl Rogers' theory was developed, just saying. But Carl Rogers came along and he said that Freud was totally wrong. His stand was purposely against Freud and any of those neo-Freudians. That unconscious stuff was like BS. The client was the expert. It's their life. And as the therapist, all I had to do was be congruent, genuine. Congruent means my body and my mouth match, right? Everything matches. And then if I am warm and caring, and unconditional positive regard, and all those good things, right? And I would be great, that I would be fine because he would listen to me. And again, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, if you remember that at all, Mr. Rogers, everything was okay. Everything was okay. Come to the neighborhood. So obviously, Carl Rogers is not the kind of technique that I would use in with someone who, my drug and alcohol population, right? Or my pedophiles. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, just do whatever you want to do. So when it comes to those questions where I get to pick my theorist, I'm not picking Rogerian for someone who's a pedophile. That's not going to work. But what Carl Rogers said is the client is the expert. He did not believe in diagnosing. And what that may look like on a question is, according to so-and-so, they ask what their diagnosis is. Okay. And Freud said that, Carl Rogers said that, again, the words I'm looking for, and I was looking for the words to know who it belongs to. So the process of becoming, moving the clients to self-actualization. Self-actualization most often belongs to Maslow. That's the top of Maslow's chart, right? Where I don't have to worry about anything because I'm up there. That word phenomenological worldview, I mentioned that earlier. So if you're a newer person, if you went to school earlier, you might not know that term. But what Carl Rogers did, so it's person-centered, client-centered, Rogerian, any of those things, what I'm looking for is I'm looking at the world from the client's viewpoint. The client is the expert. So if they tell me that the sky is green and there are little green monsters walking around them, I'm going to stick with that. Just am, right? Because that's where I come from. I trust the client. So the terms, again, unconditional positive regard, genuineness, empathetic, those are all terms that I'm looking for that belong to Carl Rogers. He did not diagnose. He didn't believe in like any of the insight stuff, right? What's happening underneath? No. Right? I just want to make, you're the expert, you tell me, and if I'm supported enough, you'll figure it out. Fritz Perls, that is the name for Gestalt, right? Gestalt. And I always do my best Dr. Philip impression. Pretend your mama sitting in that chair. Those of you who are from Texas, you should probably just like do this for me. The goal with Fritz Perls or Gestalt is to live in the here and now. The goal of the empty chair is to get rid of the unfinished business. Gestalt said we cannot be a whole person until we get rid of that unfinished business. So mom doesn't have to be dad. She can just be someone that you can't stand or you have a bad relationship with, or your ex-husband, or the neighbors that you didn't like. Any of those people over there, right? Those could be that's the person that you need to get rid of, because I need to live in the here and now, right? And in order to do that, I got to get rid of the unfinished business. The word Gestalt means whole. To be a whole person is to be a Gestalt. Okay? So Gestalt also uses that term figure ground, which most of you have seen. You just didn't have any idea who it belonged to, or you probably even had it mentioned in class, and there was an online class and you didn't pay attention. So figure ground, that's what that looks like. And what he is saying in this picture is that what is in front of us is what we need to work on, right? So if my current relationship right now, if that's what I see, that's what I need to work on. And then what I worked on right now, the front, and then the back would come forward, and then I need to work on that. So that picture is called figure ground, and that's a symbolic picture of his theory. So the here and now is what's important, but I can't do the here and now until I get rid of the unfinished business. So what that may look like in a question again is, so what kind of group would I use this with? Or what kind of individual? Someone whose parents died, someone who had a bitter divorce, someone who had some, awful stuff go on and they're stuck, right? They can't go on. So we're going to use that thing. We're going to, tell your mama, pretend your mama sitting in that chair and tell her what you think about her, right? Let it go, let it go. Many of you use that in your own therapy anyway, and you don't label it. If you have people write letters and set them on fire, or write letters and tear them up, that's the same thing. That's the same process. Right? So don't look for writing letters on the test, because that won't be there. But if it comes to talk about unfinished business, you know exactly what that means because you do it in your practice. Okay? Figure ground, whole, all of those things come from Gestalt. The goal is to be a complete Gestalt, to be a whole person, and I can't do that until I get rid of the past. Experiential just means hands-on. Right? That I'm the kind of person that I learn, that I'm going to teach you using experiments. So the hands-on, the concrete, here and now, getting rid of the empty chair, that's what that means. The two-chair technique is the same thing. So maybe the therapist is in one chair and you're in the other chair. That's the two-chair technique, the exact same thing. When it comes to Adler, the only time you're ever going to see Rudolf Drucker is going to be with individual psychology. So I don't really teach him, because when you think of individual psychology, all the other terms are Adler terms. Unified life plan, lifestyle, those are Adlerian terms. Adler talked about your birth order, right? First, second, third, fourth, that's called birth constellation. That's what he looked at. Adler said if there were more than 7 years between the kids, you start over. And if you've hung around me for a bit, you know that I have 3 firstborns, or 3 only children. They're all 6.5 years apart, and they all think that they're like the only one. I don't know. Okay, so that's what we're looking at with that. So the term inferior and superior. So superior is I'm firstborn, and I'm like on top of the heap. Yay me, yeah, right? In my house, I was the firstborn for like 2 years, and then another brother came along, and then I was top over, right? I wasn't on the top anymore. So according to then Adler, I'm spending the rest of my life trying to feel superior because I was knocked off my post. So I feel inferior trying to get back. Some of the other terms you'll see, and as we go down, or if you look in a different chapter of this book, you'll see more about Adler. He talked about the spitting in your soup, and the sour apples, sour lemons, sweet grapes, sweet sour lemons, no, sweet lemon, sour grapes. That's the Aesop's fable, right? And that's a defense mechanism. So when you went up to get the grapes, they'd be sour anyway. So according to Adler, that is the defense mechanism. So don't use that word rationalization, because you're only going to see that under defense mechanism. So I don't want you to get confused. Verbiage is really, really important. If you tutor with me, I'll always say to you, make sure you know the right words, because it's just important, because that's going to be the make it or break it on the test. It may mean the exact same thing, but that's not going to help on the test. The guiding fictions, according to Adler, are the things that we learned in childhood. Okay, and learning those in childhood, those are the things that we take into adulthood. So as a child, I still come from that childhood place. And that is where I have these guiding fictions that you'll always love me, right? I don't have to plant the house. I'm a kid. So that's what those things mean. Sweet lemons.
Dr. Pam, can you tell us what the
No,
spitting in the
not anything. I'm sorry. Just keep muted till the end. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
You're more than welcome to ask questions, but not until the end. Okay. I gotta get through this so everybody can hear, but I will. If you came in later, please just give me a few minutes just to lecture, and I promise you I'll come back and answer all your questions. I just need to get some lecture terms out. So again, that is a Freudian term, okay, when it comes to that. And yes, it is called rationalization, but most often on the test, when you see rationalization, that's going to belong to Freud. Adler was a neo-Freudian, right? He didn't believe in all the other stuff. But the rationalizations are, you know what, I couldn't reach the grapes, but I didn't want them anyway, because, you know, they were probably sour, right? I didn't want to be a doctor, right? I'll just be a nurse. So that's an Adler term, okay? So the sour grapes, the sweet lemons, the spitting in your soup, that belongs to Adler too, and those are all his defense mechanisms. And what we're looking for again is the words that belong to Adler, the words that belong to any of the theorists, so I know what I'm looking for on the test. Okay. TA, right? TA, transactional analysis. That is Eric Bernet. So Eric Bernet wrote the book, The Games People Play, because what he said was that last one, we're doing those ulterior methods, right? That is those are the games I play. If you don't have enough food to bring to class, you can't bring it. Just saying, that's the rule, right? I hear like crumbling. You can't feed the whole class. Don't bring it. Okay, so TA, transactional analysis, Eric Bernet. Amazingly sounds a lot like id, ego, and superego, but please don't get them confused. Okay, so what Eric Bernet said is that we all have 3 ego states inside of us. We all have the adult, we all have the parent, we all have the child. On a really good, in most relationships, in most days, we're coming adult to adult, right? So what that means is that it's a transaction, how we talk to each other. So I'm talking to you like an adult, you're talking to me like an adult, and we're good. In this session now, right, we should be adult to adult. However, there are occasions that are healthy, that are complementary. So when someone in my circle, my spouse, my job, my people that I tutor, there are sometimes when I'm coming from the childlike stage. There are sometimes that I'm speaking like a child, acting like a child, feeling like a child. And hopefully then one of my lovely people in my group will come back from their career, come from their parent stage and say, Pam, stop being stupid or stop being a baby. An example would be in this one is, let's say, with my drug and alcohol users, right? So I've got someone who's in my group and they're saying, you know, I can just go and have one drink. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I haven't had a drink in months. I'm not an alcoholic. So they're coming from that child. It's child state language, child state transactions. Hopefully one of the group members will come, and the other group members will say, no, you can't, right? We're in this group because we can't have one drink. So they're going to come from their parent stage and talk to him, talk to his child ego to help us get through this. And that is really okay. Occasionally, when I need help, it's okay. The cross transactions, the problem with the cross is we're coming from different ego states, and I'm aware of it. I'm aware that every time that, you know, I speak to you, that you're going to talk down to me. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. No matter that I'm in the position of power, right? I'm the boss, and I can talk down to you all I want, and you're still going to treat me like the adult because you're going to come adult to adult, no matter where you are, because I'm the parent, I'm the adult in this ego stage. So those are not great, but at least I know about them. The worst ones, of course, he said, are the ulterior ones. Those are the ones that I do not know. That is the double bind or the mixed message, all of those things that are hidden that I don't see. So for example, this one says, for example, if a manager tells an employee, this is a really intriguing problem, but it may be too hard for you. That's a mixed message, right? Come on, yes or no. Don't do that. That's a very much of a mixed message. So then that's an ulterior. And what he said is a better approach would be to avoid innuendos, right? Break up the conversation into complementary transactions. He said that ulterior attractions are manipulative and purposeful. Okay, so if you see the question, are these a very directive approach? It sure is, because he's going to call you out when you're being in that childlike state. Okay, so again, you'll see the question many times of which therapy would work best, or which one would work best, which theoretical orientation. So if you've got it, stop. Okay, sorry. If you have people that are they're not very clear that they're doing it purposeful, they're talking down to you purposely. So the goal would be to be very directive and to get them to stop coming from that childhood stage. So the goal of TA is to either come to align my ego states, or to learn to talk adult to adult, or to let go of childhood, to let go of the childhood scripts. The scripts we learned in childhood, to not use those anymore. So you got scripts, those stages, complementary, those things belong to Bernays. His book was The Games People Play. He said that last stage, the ulterior stage, those are very purposeful, and people played those games on purpose. Okay. So again, I'm looking for the words, the terms that belong to him. He was not a Freudian. He was not a neo-Freudian. He didn't believe any of that stuff was unconscious. He believed it was totally conscious, and you're aware of the choices that you made. And the directive approach would be to get you to stop making those choices or coming from the childhood stage. So I'm trying to close out my windows, guys. Okay, TA, again, 3 ego states: parent, child, adult, life script. That belongs to him. When I see a question, so which of these is using a life script? And again, those of you who have the test, you'll agree with me. Sometimes that's all you get in that. You get one line, and you have to know that life script belongs to Bernays. If you don't know that, then you're out of luck. Okay, again, those are my type of transactions. And that's his book, Games People Play. Thomas Harris wrote, I'm okay, you're okay. I have never seen that to be the right answer on the test. I've seen it on the test, but not the right answer. Okay, so that is not, he was a transaction analysis person, but he was not Bernays. Existentialism is Rollo May or Viktor Frankl. The story, the anecdotal that you probably heard in school, the one that I used, just reminds you of where he came from. So Viktor Frankl, it was a Jewish psychiatrist, and he was living, he and his family were forced into the Nazi concentration camps. His dad did not make it. He was sitting on a separate train. His mother and his sisters, the three of them were set on a train to the concentration camps. His mother and his sister was killed, and he was not. So the theory, again, that phenomenological view, how you see the world, right? The basis of your theory, that's where we start from. So part of that theory is he was like, well, why did I live? Why am I here? There must be a bigger purpose. There must be a bigger reason. So when I think of existentialism, I'm thinking like, what is my purpose for existing? Why am I here? What he said is we search for meaning and struggle with being alone and connecting us from others. So we struggle with meaning and struggle with being alone, being unconnected from others. The next one, anxiety and guilt are central concepts. Anxiety is a threat of non-being, and guilt occurs when we fail to fulfill our potential. Okay, so again, Nazi concentration camp, I survived. God left me here for a reason. I need to fulfill that potential that he has for me. The goal of existentialism is to understand one's being, one's awareness of who one is and who is becoming. He believed that awareness was on a continuum, and the goal is to get to being the most aware. Logotherapy is actually the name of Viktor Frankl's book, but we have used it interchangeably for the name of the theory. So logotherapy and existentialism are seen as the same thing. A couple of these names that you'll see later on in this book. Joseph Wolpe, he did my systematic desensitization. That's what he's known for. Meckenbaum, stress inoculation theory. He said, give us a little bit of that, stress before, prepare for it, and when stress happens, we'll be good. Beck is my CBT person. Albert Bandura is a social learning theory. He's the one that talked to us about, that's how we learn how to ride an elevator, right? We can go to elevator riding schools. Did anybody do that? You went to school to learn how to ride the elevator or how to stand in line? You went to kindergarten because kindergarten taught you social skills. And what Bandura said is that we learn by watching society around us. That's how we learn. He's also a career guy, right? That whole self-efficacy approach. You'll see that in a different section. But those are still belonging to Bandura. So social learning, social cognitive, any of those are Bandura terms. Marsha Linehan, she's also considered postmodern. That means she's new. Marsha Linehan came up with that thing for borderlines. As a rule, we know that borderlines are ego-syntonic. All of my personality disorders are ego-syntonic. They're in sync with who I am. I don't have a problem, right? My antisocials, the ones that like to, eat you and kill you and still smile at you, they're not coming for therapy because they don't see a problem. The ego dystonic, those are things that I'm comfortable with me and I'll come. I don't like being depressed. I don't like being bipolar, so I will come for therapy. So again, I make that to say that as a rule, my personality disorders do not have treatment. DBT, postmodern, Marsha Linehan, she said, yes, we can treat them. And I do realize that this is used in many schools, for many other programs. It's pretty common now, but remember, for the test, it was only written for the borderlines. This is not a thinking test. The test does not care what you do in your office. What it cares about is, do you know what DBT therapy is and what it looks like? There are 4 tenets to DBT. Okay. Mindfulness has been around forever and forever and forever. And all of a sudden now it belongs to Marsha Linehan. I don't know, but it's been around forever. Mindfulness is to be aware of the moment without judgment. So I'll be transparent. I'm looking at buying a house. I've not bought a house ever on my own, ever. I was married and blah, 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 blah. But I'm hoping to purchase this house. And I remember yesterday standing in this house, I just wanted to enjoy the moment. Whether my deal goes through, somebody may outbid me, any of those things might happen. No judgment though. I am in the ability to buy this house in my own name without anybody else. So for me, that's mindfulness, sitting in the moment. And I teach that to clients, no matter what I do. I think that's very, very important. Sometimes I define it as gratitude, right? Just to sit there in the moment. Don't congratulate me yet, Rebecca. I won't know till Monday because somebody might outbid me. The housing market is crazy where I live. We'll see. Okay, but I'm downsizing. I have I have 5 bedrooms and 3 baths, and all the kids are grown, so I'm trying to go down to like a box. So thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so emotional regulation. Again, we know that my borderlines, their emotions are up and down all across the board. Distress tolerance. Distress tolerance is, what do you mean my burger's not ready? I've been in line for 3 minutes. What, right? Frustrations tolerance and interpersonal. INTER, remember, always talks about my relationships with other people, whether it's a group or a family or anybody else. Interpersonal. INTRA, inside of me, that's Freud's term. Intra-psychic. INTER always means with others. Intercourse is with other people. So borderlines, again, have difficulty with maintaining relationships. So the goal of DBT is to help them develop healthy relationships. So that is Marsha Linehan. And again, she is one of my newer ones. So you will probably see her on the test. And those that taken the test before, you can put in the chat box, but most people have seen it. You might see this term also, chain analysis. What DBT looks for are the triggers. How did you get here? Right? So what happened before? What happened before? What happened before? Because the goal is to stop those triggers before I hit the blow up. Okay. REBT, that is the ABCD of REBT. REBT, I'm going to bring out my country accent. REBT, because I currently live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I'm going to say REBT. If you live in the South, please don't text me later and say I was making fun of your accent, because I was not. Okay, so REBT, as well as dialectical behavior therapy, are still offshoots of CBT. Beck, cognitive behavior therapy, Beck talks about restructuring your thoughts, right? Changing your cognitions. That's the term we're looking for with Beck. The Beck's depression inventory and the Beck's anxiety inventory both are measuring, how well am I changing that thought process. So it's called the ABCDE of REBT. The difference between REBT and CBT is it is the belief system instead of the thinking system. What I'm looking for on the test is irrational. You might say irrational beliefs or irrational thoughts. Either way, they're not making any sense in this problem. What I most often use is the test, right? This horrible test. Oh my gosh. So let's say none of you, of course, none of you. Next week I go to take the test. I take the test and I fail. I've been studying for like 9 months. I've listened to every one of Dr. Pam videos. I know her. I can tell you everything about Dr. Pam. I did my best and I failed. So what Ellis said, that's not the problem. Yes, you failed, but that's not the problem. The problem is the belief system that you have. Oh my God, I should have gone to medical school like my mother said. I should have married him. I don't know why I went to school anyway. I should have been a teacher. I am not a good therapist. Everybody tells me I'm not a good counselor. I can't believe this. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure none of you, just people, other people, none of you. And then with that irrational belief, then that's where emotional consequences come in, right? I'm going to beat myself up. Oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have told him that. Maybe I'm not a good therapist. Oh, is that the right answer? I'm going to have lots of self-doubt because I'm beating myself up because of the belief that I think I'm not a good counselor. I'm going to come along and I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute here, girl. look at that cubicle beside you. Didn't she ask you like 6 times last week what to do? She got a license, don't she? Sorry, that is totally improper English, but I'm gonna stick with it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm disputing that irrational belief. Having the license doesn't make you a better or worse counselor, does it? The minute you pass that license test and it says pass, are you suddenly a better counselor? No. Okay. So this test has nothing to do with your counseling skills, nothing whatsoever. So the goal is then you'll have effective new consequences, new beliefs about yourself, that you won't challenge yourself or question your decisions because you know those two things are not related. Okay. A, B, C, D, E of REBT. That is Ellis. Ellis is one that you might see used in drug and alcohol use. Okay. It's a lot, oftentimes that irrational belief system that, you know, I have to, in order to have fun, I have to get drunk. I can't go out and have fun without drinking. So some of those irrational beliefs, you'll see that it's a good technique, good orientation to use my alcohol and drug users. Okay, that's the ABC of our EBT. Lazarus. Lazarus, if you're biblical, you know that Lazarus is the person that Jesus rose from the dead. So I just say that to say that Lazarus is basic ID, who I am. What you're looking for with Lazarus is the preferred modality. So Lazarus did not have any of his own theories. He's known as eclectic, right? He grabbed a couple of everybody's. So what he did is, what he said is, we need to recognize and treat the person based on how they present. That is their preferred modality. Okay. So then if they come in and the same, let's say the same problem, let's say they came in and they tell me they're depressed. That first one is my B. Oh, come on. If I talk to my video, it works better. My B is my behavior. So if I come in and I'm depressed and I say, you know, I don't feel like having sex. I can't get up to go to work. I'm tired. I want to sleep all the time. He's going to treat me the way that I presented it, right? Role playing, get a job, you know, be very direct, Pam, get up and shower 3 days a week, because that's how I presented my problem. So he's going to treat me the way that I presented. Affect, mood, right? That's your mood disorder. That's your affect. So then what I'm looking for is, if you present to me, your depression looks like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm hopeless. I can't do this. I can't do that. Then my intervention is going to be based on how you present it to me. So we're going to address that mood. The same thing with sensations. So my 5 sensations, right? My 5 senses. And also then any other sensation I feel in my body. Same kind of thing. If you say that you have no energy, you're tired, that's how I'm going to treat it. Imagery, cognitions are your thought process, interpersonal with other people. The D does not always stand for drugs. It stands for any physical problem. So it can be drugs, right? Or exhausted because you stayed up all night partying. Or is it that you're low on iron? So what I'm looking for in that question is, he'll talk to me about the different ways we present. He is called an integrative theorist because it's not any of his own. And he's looking at the goal to use the best modality, the preferred modality. However the client presents, that's how I'm going to treat them. I mentioned Glasser before. He is my newest guy on the block. So Glasser is reality therapy. What Glasser said is that we all have these needs that need to be filled. Okay. So we're born with these. They're innate. Again, that means that we're born with them, and we spend our whole life trying to make sure that those needs are met. So love and belonging, power, fun, survival, and freedom. So everything I do, according to Glasser, is to get those needs met. And of course, there are very appropriate ways to get my needs met. But if I make the choice to get my needs met differently, then I am responsible for those choices. If I'm looking for power and recognition, and I decide that I'm going to sleep my way to the top, I'm here, right? Yes. However, how I chose to get here is my responsibility, right? So if that's the behavior I chose, then I need to pay the consequences, or I'm responsible for my choices. So that's his theory, is the choice theory. You have the choice however you so choose to live life. You've got you do what you do, you boo. However, don't be surprised when there are consequences that go with that. So he is my choice guy. Those 5 areas: need for survival, love and belonging, power and importance, freedom and independence, and the need to have fun. Okay, and those, again, where he said we're born with those needs, but the goal is how I get them, how I respond, how I choose to get those needs met. That is my problem, because I'm responsible for that. That is Glasser. WEDP, that's going to come up next. Yeah, I don't teach that. I haven't seen it on the test in many, many years. It's Bolding. You might have heard about him in school. If you see him on the test, he's the wrong answer. Or if you know everybody else, he's the right answer. But he's not one that I would necessarily teach. Feminist theory, sometimes it's also called gender fairness theory. So it used to be just for women. It was written in the 60s when y'all guys were burning your bras, right? I don't need no man, hairy armpits, blah, blah, blah. But now we're looking at, it's looking at anyone who doesn't have power. So the marginalized people, think of your notebook paper, the people that fit in the small size, those are the marginalized: brown, black, blue, gray, straight, lesbian, LGBTQIA. Any of those people that are not the majority, white, upper class, middle Americans, those are going to be then the people that I'm working with. And the goal of feminist therapy is the personal is political and critically conscious. The personal is political. So then if I come to you and I tell you that I'm depressed, and I'm depressed because I can't get a job, or, I hate my job, I hate my neighborhood, we're going to look at what society is doing to cause those problems, right? I hate my job because I can't get promoted. Is that because you're the only one of your sexual orientation in the room? We're going to address and talk about those things. So gender fair feminist therapy, the goal is to work for the marginalized people. Solution to focus, brief, 6 weeks. The only one that doesn't start with the medical model. The medical model says you come in and I tell you what my problems are, and you say, oh, okay, I'll fix it. The solution focused therapy, you come in with the problem, you say, I'm depressed, and I'm going to say, so tell me, first of all, I need to assess what does depression look like. And then you say, I can't get out of bed, I can't do this. So if the miracle happened tonight, if you woke up tomorrow and suddenly depression was gone, what would it look like? Okay, so that is accept questions, or the miracle question, right? What would it look like? And then I'm going to use the term scaling to determine where you are on that inventory. So I say, for me, that depression means I can get up and I can work out, and I can have a good breakfast and have coffee and feel great. So he's going to ask me, so Pam, where are you at on that scale today? Did you get up? Did you have coffee? Did you work out? So that is then the scaling question, because I'm going back to having that miracle happen. Narrative therapy. What I usually hear from my clients is, you change the way you talk. And that is so very true. It is. But that's not going to be enough to answer this question. There are specific terms that belong to narrative therapy. Narrative therapy is changing the tapes. Don't use the word scripts, because scripts belongs to TA. Changing the stories, changing the stuff in my head, whether it's stuff you've told yourself or stuff I've heard. Grandmama and them said, right? I've always heard, yes, all of those things that we still carry. Not as important as some of the other things, but I grew up with a mother who told me that, and to this day, I'm 56, and I cannot wear white unless it's between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Labor Day, right? That's what Mama told me. I raised my kids in South Florida. It was always warm. Mama, why can't we wear this? Because you can't do that. That's the tape. That's the story I've heard in my head for 50-something years. You just don't do that. You don't do that. So what he says is what the goal is, you're going to take that tape out. Like, Pam, why is that tape there? Take it out, externalize it, take it apart. Why is that tape there? Why, right? Don't you know about winter white, Pam? What's your problem? So I'm going to externalize it, deconstruct it, take it apart, rewrite it or reauthor it and put it back in my head. So that is the terms I'm looking for. Externalize, take it out, take it apart. Where did it come from? Then rewrite it and put it back in my head. Specific terms that belong to narrative. Okay. So whether it's your own story or the story someone else has been telling you that you've been carrying on forever and forever, that's the problem, is the story. Integrative is when I integrate. I've got one technique that I usually use. You know, Dr. Pam is a Gestalt person. Look at her, always, always. However, then what I do is I bring in a little Freud because I know this person is Freudian. But I'm always got my own, or I always practice from this theory. And then I'm going to bring in something else, integrate something else for this specific client. Okay, so then my eclectic, so I mentioned before when it came to Lazarus, he's eclectic. He didn't have his own theory. He pulled in everybody else's. So eclectic is great because I can use any other, all the theories, right? However, the term eclectic means that, you know, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I'm really, really okay with some of the theories, but not great with any of them. Again, neither good or bad. I'm just teaching you stories, teaching you the verbiage to look for. This will be in your chat box also when it comes just to theories in general. I'll put this in the book. So psychoanalytic, anybody psychoanalytic was a follower of Freud. So we're looking for unconscious, all of that stuff. Adler, birth orders, existentialism, the terms I'm looking for, self-awareness, freedom. Existentialism belongs to Viktor Frankl or Rollo May. Yalom was also an existentialist. If you remember Yalom's curative factors, yeah, right, Dr. Pam, I remember. If you remember those, one of those is existentialism, right? What is my purpose? So you won't see Yalom May in general when it comes to existentialism, but you do know that his curative factors, one of them is existentialism. Person-centered is Carl Rogers. The client is the expert. Really? You raped and killed your mother last week? Well, come on in. Let's talk about it. How are you doing with that? Right? Going to be congruent. What's coming out of my mouth and my body is going to match up. I'm not going to say, you killed your wife last week, right? You killed your wife last week, right? No, that's like weird. Where? No, it's like matching. That's wrong. So Gestalt, again, getting rid of unfinished business, focus on the here and now. Behavior theorists, we didn't touch on those, but Skinner and Pavlov are behavior theorists. Both of them believe that behavior is controlled by rewards and consequences. So Skinner is operant conditioning, and Pavlov, of course, is going to be my Pavlov is my classical conditioning. CBT, of course, you know, I talked about the others. Okay, I'm going to wrap you up, guys, and we're going to pick up a few questions. But in general, do you have questions for me? Thanks for hanging in with me for a bit. I do appreciate it. Questions that you want to ask me before I pick up a few questions? Anyone I didn't bore to death? Dr. Pam, please just shut up. Is that what you're telling me? It's okay. I've heard it before, I promise. Clarence, hold on one second. Clarence, anything that is in the chat room, and if you do it right now, you'll get logged out. To what you're going to do is when I hang up, when I stop recording, there'll be an MP4 right in this box. It'll be there immediately when I stop recording. So later on, I'll come back and I'll put a YouTube link. However, everything is in this chat book will be, everything I've used today will be here for 30 days. And if you go back into the chat, somebody wonderful, if you page up, somebody told us how to get in very easily to get the information. But again, it'll always only be here for 30 days. The book I'm referencing, I'll put in the chat box the minute I'm done. I am a teacher. I know better to put the information in first, because you're not going to be paying attention to me. You're going to be trying to read the book, but I will put it in the chat box the minute that I'm finished with it. Okay. Other questions, guys? And it's okay just to ask me right now. I promise.
Hey, Dr. Pam.
Mhm.
YouTube, you have Freud. You have a short for Freud's defense mechanisms.
I do.
And do you have a digital copy?
Electronic means digital.
Yeah, well, I don't want a video. I want a copy so I can print it out. And I just want the ones that we
No.
know for the test.
I do not. I only teach to the test. So every YouTube video I only teach to the test. So if I mention it, it's important. And I said to my clients, I'm a professor, but in general, I only teach to the test. And if you've been with me for half a minute, and if you ask me a question, I'll say that's not on the test. So anything I talk about is important for test use. I want that to sound mean. Does that sound mean? I just want to let you know that I don't, in the purple book, there's lots of stuff, lots of fluff that won't be there. And I don't teach you that fluff. That's a waste of your time and my time and your money. I teach directly to help you pass the test. And I'll say to you again, don't do what you do in your practice. I don't care what you do in your practice, because that's not going to be the right answer on the test. When it comes to code of ethics, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, you cannot see the family, the children, the couple. You cannot. The code of ethics makes it very clear. Only one of those is your client, the family, the child, or somebody else. But I know that most of my state providers, if you're getting paid through your state Medicaid dollars, I know that you see the mother and the child and everybody separate and still get paid. I did it. I've been in the field for 30 years. I've done it, but that is unethical. So I only teach to the test. Okay. Did I answer that question? Maybe not. Okay. So other questions, guys? I'm going to do a few test questions. I use ATBS. It's one of my favorites. I can put the question in the box. I cannot share. It's a electronic and digital program, so I cannot share the program with you, but I definitely will share the questions with you. Did I not go over any theorists that you've been dying for? What theorist spoke of social connectiveness? I don't know that. So I know in general that all of my theorists talk about the importance of therapeutic alliance. Bandura talks about social learning. Ooh, and somebody else help me out. Who would talk about social connectiveness? You guys are great. I don't.
Social connectiveness, social learning, Crumbles.
Oh, look at you. Crumbolt is my career theorist, and that's based on Bandura. Good job, though. Very good. Yes, I can put a copy of, I have the green copy of that book. I do not have the blue copy. The blue copy is the newest. I do not have that, but I'll definitely put a PDF of the green copy in there. No problem. What was my answer to social connectedness? Who was that? Angela?
Hi, Dr. Pam. Candace. Can you hear me?
I can. I know that you're in Hawaii, right? Go ahead.
Oh, Dr. Pam?
Uh-huh.
Okay, sorry, I'm in a car. The social connectedness, the options were Freud, Jung, Adler, or Skinner. So I wasn't sure which one it was.
Okay, so let's rule out. Tell me again. Freud, Adler. Who else? Skinner.
Is it Adler?
Who was the other one? Can you hear me? Okay. Candace, if you come back. So I'm going to tell you that definitely not Skinner, because Skinner was a behaviorist. He talked about, what he said is, I can, people are like animals. I can teach you to do anything with rewards and consequences. So I know that's not the answer. Adler talked about social learning. I'm sorry, he talked about Adlerian, but I'm not sure that he talked about being socially connected. And definitely not Freud, because Freud, no, definitely not Freud. So I don't know, what was the other choice?
I don't know why it's not.
Candace?
Dr. Pam, I'm looking at the NCE study guide right here, and under the key Adlerian concepts and terms, it says individuals are motivated by seeking a feeling of belonging or social connectedness.
Then that would probably be it.
Sorry, Dr. Pam, I kept getting kicked out on my my microphone. So it was Freud, Jung, Adler, and Skinner.
Somebody said it was Adler to get the bell. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so one of the things though, the connectedness, someone said that Adler said that. I would also think of Jung. Was he not one of the choices?
Yes, Jung was a choice.
Because Carl Jung
Jung and
talked
Adler,
about,
I was confused with.
And I don't know what the answer is. And someone said Adler, the verbatim says social connectedness. Adler also talked about unconscious, collective unconsciousness. So he believed, and Jung is not usually, we don't study Jung a lot. But what he usually talks about is the our unconsciousness is something that is passed down. So that's why I was thinking that it might be Jung. Okay, but I heard that Adler is the better choice on that one. I wouldn't necessarily connect that with Adler if you had not told me that. That's not a term I would use with Adler. And we're thinking about birth constellation, unified lifestyle. He talked about that in your lifestyle. That might have been it because of social connectedness. But thank you very much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Both of you who answered and asked the question. Other questions, guys? Go ahead. I hear silence. I did do the ding ding. I'm sorry if I didn't. Those of you who are class who are in my group and you're used to getting the ding, I'll give it to you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to just kind of go through a couple of questions on knowing the theorist and what it would look like in the question. I see that someone asked between inter and intra. So most often, so INTRA is just one. So intrapsychic, that's a term that Freud would use just inside of me. If you're on a intradisciplinary team, INTRA, you're all the same discipline. Inter and multidisciplinary team means the exact same thing. So interpersonal skills have to do with or learning to get along with others. INTRA skills means learning to like myself. And the way I remember that is intercourse, of course, takes more than one person. Inter, INTER. Put your answers in the chat box for me, but do not put your answers in until I say so. This is not a group thing. It's not a race. So don't put your answers in until I tell you, please. I'll put the questions in the chat box in case you cannot see it. Which theorist is credited with developing existential theory? Freud, Lazarus, May, or Carl Rogers? Did I say you could answer, Jesus? This is your first day back with me, isn't it? No, we don't race.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. How are you after surgery? Are you good?
I am doing a lot better.
Thank you. I'm so glad you get my bell. Okay, but the rule is some people feel pressure, so you cannot answer the question until I say so.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I know that
I just got excited.
I know. I'm glad to see you. First time we've been out, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a C, and so tell me, why do you think it's C, Jesus?
Well, because Rollo May was he's one of the he believed in the he worked with the other therapist.
No, come on, who's the other therapist for the record? Come on.
I'm just trying to think. He was in prison.
Not Yalom. Yes, he was in the Frankel. Yes,
Frankel, yeah.
yes. Rollo May and Viktor Frankl. Yes, good. Lazarus is a basic ID, right? He's the one who's got the preferred modalities. Carl Rogers is who? Anybody? You can answer out loud.
Person-centered.
That's right. And Freud, of course, believed that everything was unconscious, psychoanalytic, psychodynamic. Good. Okay, and so those of you that have taken the test before, I always say that's a typical question, is it not? Where you get that one line and you have to figure out who it is.
Yep,
So
it is.
If you don't know who that is, you up the creek. Right. So that's what I'm trying to teach you the words that belong to who that belongs to. Okay. I'm going to use this one as well. Okay, so I didn't touch this tonight, but you should learn it. You should know it. It is, it's a behavioral term, actually. Put it in the chat box. Jesus, I'm going to make it very clear. Don't answer until I say you can answer, okay? Because, everybody else needs some time to read. We have some people that need a minute. So systematic, and anybody else too, not just him. Okay, so systematic desensitization is primary use to treat all of the following except. Do not answer. Do not put in the chat box. I will hang you. Do not. I'll kick you out of my group. Don't answer. Okay, so with my except questions, I'm always remembering that 3 of these are good and 1 is not. And the except is not written big on the test, or the not is not written big. So the key to those is when you're reading those, and you can't, and it gets confusing, go back to the question because you're missing something. So the way that I read those, I see people typing, don't you put that answer in the chat box. I'm just gonna bump you out of my room, I swear. I don't have a lot of power, but I got power in this room, at least for the next 10 minutes. Okay, so okay, so first of all, systematic desensitization is by who? Somebody tell me out loud. Whose theory is that?
Wolpe.
Yes, Joseph Wolpe. Yes, very good. Okay, then. So 3 of these things I would use it for, and 1 of them I would not. You may answer. Which one would I not use it for? Of course, depression. Okay. Systematic desensitization is mostly for use of, what do you want? Of phobias. Okay. So phobias are fear of spiders, fear of heights, things like that. So if I don't use systematic desensitization, what are my other choices?
Flooding.
And
about the pictures.
Implosion. Yes, implosion. You got it. Ooh, you're a counselor who don't answer yet. You're a counselor who practices rational emotive REBT therapy of Ellis. Which of the following statements would you most agree with? Again, in the chat box, do not answer until I say so. Okay, so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh yeah, she mentioned Alice before. She said something like them alphabet, right? A, B, C, D, E of our EBT, right? That's what she talked about. So now I'm thinking about which one of these, the following statements, would most agree with it. Again, do not answer until I say so. Emotional disturbance is caused by unrealistic and absolute thinking. Jade, I see you typing. You better hold on to that. B, emotional disturbance is caused by unfulfilled expectations and unmet goals. C, emotional disturbances is caused by a lack of need fulfillment. Or D, social disturbance is caused by social inhibition. Okay, you may answer, guys. What do you think my answer is? I see A's and C or across the board. A, B, C, B, A. Oh, let's see here. 1, 2, I think my A's have it. It is A. Very good. Okay. Unrealistic emotional disturbance is caused by unrealistic and absolute thinking. So those are most of them. I'm thinking like unrealistic, right? Or irrational. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So one of the questions I've seen is like the woman, she and her husband have a fight, and I don't remember the one part, but she says, but he says he'll always love me. Girl, that is irrational. Okay. So, it makes sense on your wedding day for 5 minutes, but in the real world, other than your mother, no one's ever gonna, I'm other than your mother, I'm just gonna say that, right? That's unconditional love only comes with your parents.